The Braves might have had the series of the year, and they were so good that they made us look stupid. Eddie Rosario and Michael Harris are looking better than ever, and the whole offense is going like we've never seen it before. Ozzie Albies might even set a record for home runs by people who are under a certain height, and he might be heading to Seattle for the All-Star game, along with 8 other Braves. It's BravesKast. That was a fun series. We were waiting to record because series just ended. We'll talk about that at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, we are recording this right after the Red Series just ended. Honestly, after we record this episode, I might sleep for 16 hours because I did not sleep this entire weekend. I was either obsessing over this series, obsessing over the Reds players, or just being kept up by the intensity of all 3 games. We're going to get into that. We do have some house cleaning to do first. There were 2 series that we played last week that feel like a couple months ago just because of how much has occurred.
Feels like a few years ago at this point. Is Josh Donaldson still on the team? It was so long ago.
Josh Donaldson, I think he's in a retirement home as we speak, or the Yankees are putting him in a retirement home as we speak. So, which series do you want to flip a coin for? Who has to talk about the Rockies series?
Yeah, I mean the Rockies series we're going to be talking about for a long time, so I'll go ahead and take the Tiger series because I don't know if I have it in me to talk about the Rockies that long. So
that's fair. I can do that. I definitely have.
I really feel bad for you. I hate to do this, but
yeah, it's just okay.
So much happened, and it's going to be so long that I just want to steal this.
Not only do I have, I think, the vocabulary to properly describe all of my thoughts on the Rockies series, I also think I have been blessed by the gods, ordained by them even, to be able to properly dictate what has happened over those 4 games, those 4 epic games with our NL West.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy you have that because I just I'm not, that's just not what I do. I'm not artistic enough for that. So the Tiger series happened about 2 years ago. The Braves looked like they were going to win game 1. They didn't. Raisel Iglesias really quickly gave up that lead in the 9th inning. The Tigers walk it off in the 10th. The next day, there is a rain out, and so the Braves play 2. It looks like they are going to lose a series in Detroit. Spencer Strider looks, frankly, horrible. We'll talk more about him because we still love Spencer, and he had a redemption start following this start. Wasn't great. The Braves somehow win. Eddie Rosario goes off. They win game 2. 10-7. Michael Harris goes off. Game 3, they come out, they win. It looks close. Dylan Dodd was not good. Thankfully, Colin McHugh was. He has had some rough appearances since then. Eddie Rosario again goes off, and Ozzie Albies looks really good. Overall, it's a 2 out of 3 series. Even against the worst teams in baseball, you'll take a 2 out of 3 series. But besides Strider, and we'll talk about Strider later, really not a whole lot to talk about. And then the Braves go back to Atlanta, and good luck on this call. But how did that Rockies-Braves series go?
Yeah, I've been mentally preparing myself to talk about this series all week. First thing I should say, and we're going to get into it later, a significant lineup change occurred. Our great leader, Sittker, put Albies in the 2-hole and bumped Olsen back to the 5th spot. He's been moved to the 4th spot last few weeks. We'll talk about it more in depth later, but first I do have to cover this epic series where we learned so much about our Braves playing a team like the Rockies. Okay. I have a bunch of notes. So
yeah, I'm looking at their notes page and it's so long.
Yeah, it's a novel. Like I actually might rival War and Peace for word count. Okay, game 1, blowout. Game 2, blowout. Game 3, blowout. Game 4, blowout. Also, Michael Harris II went 5 for 5 with a double and a home run after his father usurped Charlie Culberson's father for throwing out the first pitch of the game. That's a story we're not going to get into. Just if you didn't read it, or I don't know, like just are not a Braves fan, Charlie Culberson, who joined the team in late May and never played a game for them, never played a single inning for them.
I want that job.
His dad, everybody listening to this podcast has had as many innings played in a Braves uniform as Charlie Culberson, who was on the 26-man roster since he got called up.
Yeah, he spent exactly 28 days on the roster. That's 4 weeks. I did the math. He made over $100,000 in that month, or less than a month, the 4 weeks. That is my dream job. So Atlanta Braves, before Cole also begs for this job, if you have an open spot on a 26-man roster, your roster is severely lacking Asian American players. I think Travis d'Arnaud could use a friend. And I can do exactly what Charlie Culberson did. I think I'm nice, friendly.
But
I'll sign for the league minimum.
So my only pitch that you don't have is that it's not even like something that gives me a competitive advantage. If I do join the team, you have to DFA me on a holiday. So we have 4th of July, Labor Day, Talk Like a Pirate Day. You have to DFA me exactly on a holiday. It was a story that actually got national attention, which I don't think anybody covering the story on a national scale realized that Charlie Culberson, one, that he never played a single game. He literally came to the ballpark every day, took some BP, shagged fly balls, and then sat on the bench every day. And then they also didn't realize that even though the timing was unfortunate, we did need another catcher since Sean Murphy was on the shelf during the Rockies. He hurt his hamstring during the Rockies series. So not too much to gather from that, just a unfortunate circumstance. I bet I mean, Charlie Culberson's a great guy. I bet his dad is a great guy too. I hope they got to play some catch, grilling over the Barbie. That
I
night,
can't imagine Charlie being upset about this either. He knew what he was there for. I would have loved to see Charlie pitch in one of the blowout games beforehand. I think it would have been hilarious if his only appearance in a major league game in 2023 was as a pitcher.
That would have been pretty funny.
But overall, I mean, he wasn't hurt from it. Charlie's a professional baseball player. He knows what his skill is. He's not disillusioned about his abilities. Before we move on to the Phillies series, though, just one more thing I remembered as you were going through all of the blowouts. Did you know Travis d'Arnaud could hit a ball 474 feet? Because I did not.
I thought that was
no
a joke.
idea.
I wasn't watching that game. I was at a local festival thing, and a friend texted me and was like 474 feet from TDA. I thought I was being trolled.
I was listening to it on the radio because I was driving back from Raleigh to Boone, which is where I was visiting family. I was dropping someone off at the airport. And the radio crew went crazy. They were like, that ball was smoked. So I was thinking 440 feet to left center. That's pretty cool. And then they said the distance, and I almost had to pull off on the highway to double check to see how far that ball went. And then he smoked another homer. And the next at bat that went 440 feet. The Braves and Rockies, there was just too much offense to pinpoint. It was a disaster for the Rockies. Huge success for the Braves. We don't need to talk about it much after that. I just I needed
the
to
Rockies,
talk.
The Rockies are basically a graveyard. Their pitching staff is basically a graveyard for just the remains of forgotten potential.
We are recording this a day after they lost a game, a Major League Baseball game. They are a Major League team, and they lost 25
to 1.
To 1.
Yeah.
I was really pulling for 30 runs. The Angels are always finding a way to disappoint me, even when they succeed. But yeah,
they did the reverse Tungsten O'Doul game though.
Yeah.
Ohtani went 1 for 5 and
seven.
tried out.
He went 1 for 7.
1 for 7, and Trout, they pulled him after the 4th inning after they scored 13 runs.
When David Fletcher hits a 3-run homer off of your team,
okay.
That's when you know you just need to pack it up and leave.
What do you think is more unlikely? David Fletcher hitting a home run in general, or Travis d'Arnaud hitting a 474-foot bomb? Like, which one would you have a?
If you came to me back when we started this podcast and you said, well, I guess they both happened, but take a guess, place a bet on this. Man, I would have to go with the Fletch homer. He's hit homers before. It went to the shallowest part of a Coors Field. Travis d'Arnaud hit a ball 474 feet in Atlanta. That just doesn't... this is like a therapy session where I'm talking to my therapist and they're like, Travis d'Arnaud can't hit. Baseball's 474 feet. He's a good Major League Baseball player. And I would go, but he looks like a little kid. He runs like a little kid.
He's swinging out of his shoes every time. It is a very... His swing, and I say this with all due respect, we are huge Travis d'Arnaud fans.
I'm a huge Travis d'Arnaud fan, yeah.
He swings like a guy who just learned how to hit a ball like a week ago.
Yeah. I love Travis d'Arnaud. He embodies the kiddish nature of baseball better than anybody else. But yeah, let's move on to the Phillies series because
we spent way too much time talking about the Rockies series.
I finally saw a Braves game in person after 4 years, and
you were not disappointed.
Undercover at Citizens Bank Park as a Braves fan, but I didn't show myself because one, I was cautious. Phillies fans, they're really passionate about their team. That's a great thing. Coming up in Braves gear at Citizens Bank Park when it's my first time there, I wasn't sure if that was the move. And two, I was gone from home for 2 weeks, and somehow that any Braves gear at all did not make my bag. Am I a true Braves fan? I don't know. So I went to the Spencer Strider game. I was planning this for over a month. I was counting start days before Spencer started struggling. It looked for a second like I was not going to see Spencer Strider pitch, but God let it rain in Michigan, and instead of seeing A.J. Smith-Shawver, whose start the next day actually got rained out, I saw Spencer Strider in person, and he was good. He was not great. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks. You'll take that any day of the book, any day of the year, not any day of the book. Every inning basically had a base runner, if not more.
Yeah, and that's I think more of a testament to the Phillies hitters than Spencer Strider's stuff. His fastball velocity was up after being down for 2 starts. He looked more confident throwing the slider. He's very slowly incorporating that changeup. I actually have a note here where it looks like that's going to be the key pitch whenever he doesn't have his A stuff. That's going to be what his trick, if you will, whenever he's not able to catch, 99, 100. Hopefully that changeup can get him out of some sticky situations. But yeah, just wanted to interject there.
Yeah, I guess we should talk a little bit about his struggle since he wasn't really struggling the last time we talked. He did have a bad start against the Mets. I wrote it off to juice balls because that game was really weird. I was wrong.
Bally Sports paid MLB thousands because they have thousands of dollars to spend Bally Sports.
When I'm going bankrupt, the thing I do is pay a major corporation to have balls that fly out of the yard. So my former Braves player broadcasting crew debut can have the most fun of their lives. That's what I would do. But yeah, so Spencer Strider, he had a good start against Philadelphia in Atlanta 3 weeks ago now. The next start, he allowed 8 runs in 4 innings against the Mets in probably the weirdest game you'll ever see. The start after that, he allowed, was it 6 runs in 3 or 4 innings against the Tigers and had a season low in strikeouts. I think he only had like 5 or 6.
Yeah. I think the part that worried me the most, I mean, Torkelson, it looks like he's on the come up right now. He was a top prospect for the Tigers, really struggled last year, but he's finally turning a corner. So, when I saw him give up that home run to Torkelson, like, kudos, tip your hat to him. What really scared me was giving up a home run to the 40-year-old Miguel Cabrera, who this is his retirement tour, is his first home run of the year. And again, we're talking about one of the best hitters of all time. He has virtually 0 bat speed. And typically, if you have awful bat speed, the first thing you're going to not be able to hit is a fastball. And the fact that he was able to connect with a Spencer Strider fastball specifically.
On the first time he's ever seen him.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yes. So going into the Philadelphia series, I went with 2 of my friends who do not watch baseball. And I was really concerned that if a Spencer Strider bad start continued, I would be having a mental breakdown in Citizens Bank Park in front of my 2 friends who do not watch baseball. And it would be just, a great experience for them.
Sounds like a great emo song, like a great subject. Having a mental breakdown at Citizens Bank Park because Spencer Strider's
has a bad start.
Officially struggling, yeah.
And so in the first inning or 2, I think I messaged you and I was like, his fastball velo just dropped, and he allowed a few base runners. And then suddenly it was all the way back up. He had his normal amount of strikeouts. The hits are still whatever. They stayed in the park. It was a great night for baseball, and I thought the ball would be flying out. He kept it in the park. It was a good start, not a great start. We'll take a good start. What I've noticed about Spencer in the 2 starts before this one, he didn't look like he was having fun. He looked like he was. It looked like he'd forgotten that he is, at his best, the best pitcher in baseball. And I felt like he was back to that in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and something I noticed during the Tigers series is that his body language was awful. I mean, I think you're right on the money there. During the Tigers series, they punched him in the mouth pretty early in that game, and immediately he's not looking. There's an intensity that was lost as soon as the Tigers started putting up some runs against him, and he just wasn't really able to battle back from that. With the Phillies series, or the Phillies game, like you said, like they were challenging him. I mean, he still pitched a good game in my opinion, still allowed a lot of base runners, but the difference from a week ago was he was able to put his head down and, like you said, realize, hey, I'm one of the best in the game right now.
Yeah.
Like,
they do not. We don't want to be. This is not a boomer. He was having a bad attitude.
No,
like
not at all.
Honestly, it just looked like he was really down on himself.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch a lot of that Mets game because I was stranded on the side of the road. But in the Detroit series, I was working at a cafe, and then I had the game on the side, and he looked bummed out.
Yeah.
But now,
and we have to also take into account the game before got rained out. Because obviously the baseball gods wanted you, Mitchell Barbie, to be able to see Spencer Strider pitch in person, which, hey, you know what, was worth it.
Maybe I sacrificed a bad start for Spencer,
and
but I got what I wanted.
A lot of starters in the game are very ritualistic. going from mentally picturing yourself pitching a night game where the air is a little bit colder. You condition yourself in a certain way. Maybe there's a certain vegan meal that he prepares himself for night games versus day games. These are factors to consider. Are we making excuses? Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Braves
absolutely.
fans. Yeah, come on. If you're a baseball fan and not making excuses, are you really a baseball fan?
No, absolutely not. There is an unbiased take that we should have as Braves fans, but also we are fans of a team, and we have an unrelentless love for a player. So we're gonna make excuses.
We're gonna act a little, like if it's like when you're in love.
We're rational.
Act a little
yeah.
silly.
Yeah.
So
we'll
I think the Phillies.
This. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
I will monitor Strider in the future, but my concern meter has gone down a lot.
And we're going to reference an article in The Athletic, an interview he did with a writer for The Athletic. I gotta be better at quoting my sources. He was the first one to admit, you know what, I was feeling the fatigue this time around last year, and this time around last year I was only a starter. I was only stretched out for a month. He wasn't concerned, and he would be the first one to tell you if he was concerned. So I think if the Phillies start, if he was putting up the same numbers he was in Detroit, both the peripherals and the actual results, I'm raising some red flags, but I'm still confident that he's one of the best in the game. Also, we kind of need him to be one of the best in the game because Max Fried just started throwing off a mound. He's not coming back until after the All-Star break. Kyle Wright, I think he's just taking the season off. I mean,
I would not be opposed.
His timetable's August.
Yeah.
He might
just take his time. I want him healthy.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be a situation where he might pitch. They might give him the Bryce Elder treatment that they did last year, where it's like, okay, you can pitch against the Nationals, you can pitch against these teams, and then when they announce the NLDS roster, no Kyle Wright to be found.
Yeah, I like Kyle Wright as a pitcher. I have a weird take on pitchers that I generally do not like watching Braves pitchers, but that's because I'm a wimp and a scaredy cat, and I can't handle.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, Alex Anthopoulos also hates watching pitching.
Anthopoulos, you should hire me now.
He actually admitted that during Tyler Matzek's the Tyler Matzek inning, I don't think I need to give it any more introduction. He was actually hiding in the clubhouse. He wasn't watching the game. He was also a little scared wimpy cat. So Alex Anthopoulos, if you need fellow scared wimpy cats to help you make decisions, you know where to find us.
I am your guy.
Yeah, we will both pin our phone numbers in the comment sections of this.
You can
podcast.
pin your number. I don't want random
Hey,
people.
for a chance that Alex Anthopoulos is watching,
he's got our emails.
Some Braves podcast with 100 subscribers. I'm gonna take that chance.
So the second game in Philadelphia got rained out. I'm really worried about that game because it is on 9/11, and Nick Castellanos plays for the Phillies. Game 3 was probably one of the most boring games we'll have all year. It was 0-0 going into the 10th inning. The Braves push across a run, and then it looks like they're going to get out of the inning, except that the Phillies have 3 DHs, which means, unfortunately, 2 of them are playing the outfield, and one of them is Kyle Schwarber. He completely miffs the ball, 2-run score, and then Marcell Ozuna hits a blast of a homer, and the Braves win both games in Philadelphia, which, honestly is kind of hard to do. Philadelphia is a great environment to play in, and the Braves did not win there last year when it mattered.
Aaron Nola is him against the Braves is so weird. He is either elite, like top of his game elite, or he's just like a 4 or 5 starter against them. When they faced Aaron Nola at the famous Outcast game back in May, lit him up for 4 runs over 6 innings or 5 runs over 6 innings, and then this game, he looked like vintage. He looked like freaking vintage Bob Gibson against them. or
Yeah.
another elite righty.
It was
That's the first elite right I could think of.
It was a weird game because I don't think I would have minded if the Braves had lost, because I don't assume 2-game sweeps even, and it's
Yeah.
Philadelphia and it's a good team. We'll talk about Bryce Elder after the break, because he might be an all-star, and my brain can't handle that. He pitched well again. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a pitching coach, though. And the Braves leave Philadelphia and they head to Cincinnati for. Are you gonna call this the series of the year? I think I might.
Like what content? I mean, as a Braves fan, like just from that perspective, I think the Mets series, just out of like a sheer enjoyment, sick sadistic enjoyment. But as like a baseball fan, as a general baseball fan, I think we're going to be looking back at this series as one of the best of the year. Really, two not immovable objects, two unstoppable forces colliding. By the way, we have 7 minutes. I thought we got 40 minutes. Let's just take a quick pause before we talk about the Red Series.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break.
And then we're gonna have to take another pause after the Red Series
to talk about the other things.
Yeah,
but
I recommend honestly everybody just take a breather. So we're gonna take a quick pause here, and we will be right back in like 2 seconds.
And we're back. Cole, what did you do with your 5 seconds? That was man, it was just like so quick.
I deleted my System 32. Somebody told me that if I did that, my hard drive would run faster. So nothing, I mean, it's not running faster. Actually, nothing happened. So
we'll see. All right. So the series of the year. If you had told me, I don't know, a week ago that the Braves would, less than a week after coming back from a 5-0 deficit, would blow a 5-0 lead after the first inning, I would have assumed that I would have felt pretty upset as a Braves fan. The Braves blew a 5-0 lead. They lost the game by 1 run. And I was not mad. And that was weird.
I was not either. That was one of the craziest games of the year, maybe of the decade so far. It's really fun, and we would be playing these teams, 2 out of 3 of these teams, even if we didn't have the balanced schedule. But the series reminded me a lot of the Diamondbacks and Orioles series, where one, we took 2 out of 3, but we could admit they are really good teams. Like that, it was a hard-fought series, and all 3 teams had a player that felt omnipresent. And we often talk about this podcast how, the game of baseball, not one player besides a pitcher maybe can really dictate the outcome of a game. It is a true team sport in that sense. Elly De La Cruz, man, he's going to be a superstar.
I think he already is.
He is a superstar. He is.
I want to talk a little bit. We're going to do this thing like we did last week where we talked about the Diamondbacks, but Elly De La Cruz's triple was insane. So Michael Harris is a fast guy, right? He hit a triple today that necessitated an outfielder diving for a ball, missing it, and then for the other outfielder to come up, back it up, and then they still threw it into the infield that made Harris dive into third for the triple. There wasn't a tag play, but like they made it kind of close, right? This was not Michael Harris stand-up triple. He is a fast guy. He's like 28.5 feet per second speed. Elly De La Cruz hit a line drive in the right center field gap. Harris, I don't remember whether it was Acuna or Harris who ended up cutting it off. Both of them are good defensive players, ish, but like Acuna has a great arm. He threw a ball 104 miles an hour the other day. Harris is a Gold Glove caliber defender. Elly De La Cruz was into third. Like, I don't know. It was just it was like he had a line drive, and you're like, that's a triple. And for any other player, for some players, that's a single. For the slowest players in the league, like Miggy, that's just a single. For other players, that's a casual stroll into second, double, no chance at a triple. For players like Acuna and Harris, that's not a triple.
Yeah, it's funny actually that you say that with the Michael Harris triple. Unfortunately, our research team is off today. We gave them the day off. I I wonder how many series at Great American Ballpark featured two triples. Just to add to how impressive Elly De La Cruz's triple was, it was a ball on the outside third of the plate. He just reaches down for it. Insane arm strength. I mean, it didn't look like he used his legs at all. I mean, it literally looks like he just reached out and just golfed it into right center. Took him like, I don't know, 5 strides to get to third. I mean, he is a freak athlete.
He is an MLB creative player.
He really is.
He switch really hits. Is. He's 6'5". He's an infielder. He's fast as hell. He hits the ball harder than anyone else in the game.
I am praying to the baseball gods every night that O'Neal Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates is able to come back healthy and put up decent numbers, because those comparisons, it's going to make the NL Central actually a fun division for the first time since the Cubs won the World Series. But he basically won that game for them. I mean, every at-bat he was
let's not forget about Canadians' great son, Joey Votto.
Joey Votto, too. Yeah, all due respect. I'm honestly, Joey Votto might be one of my favorite players. I am so glad. I'm going to be so happy if he gets to play in the playoffs this year. And the thing is that what's funny about the Reds is it kind of seems like this team came together by accident. I mean, there was really no indication. The Diamondbacks, they promoted Carroll last year. They promoted Alek Tomas, Jake McCarthy. They had the pieces together. Same with the Orioles. I'm kind of in line going through these three teams. The Orioles actually had a decent year last year. Adley Rutschman came up, proved himself immediately as not only a viable MLB player, but as another star. The Reds didn't have that. They kind of just pieced together. They called up Elly De La Cruz a couple weeks ago. Matt McLain. Was Matt McLain called up before or after?
He was called up before. He was already on the team. He had enough stats to look like he had kind of regulated out.
Yeah, and they've had these players who virtually came out of nowhere. Going back to the series that we swept them back in April, we won all those games by only 1 run. My takeaway from that series was this is a really good team. I know we swept them, but they have some pieces here that they can build around. And that was before they promoted an actual road to the show creative player.
Yeah.
So
back in March, I was anti-Reds. I hated the owner. Still kind of do. But in 2022, we basically said, why bother making a team that wins? Fans are going to show up anyway. Yeah. And then they really didn't do anything this offseason, I don't think. They acquired Kevin Newman, I think. I don't think they made a deal. It's the NL Central. This division is quite terrible. But 2023, they made no indication that they were going in and trying to win. A few weeks ago, they were in 3rd or 4th place. I think they were swapping places with the Cubs in 3rd place. Now, I'm going to be shocked if they don't win the division.
It's amazing, yeah. And I mean, we have to be realistic here. The NL Central was up for grabs. I mean, there was a point we were convincing ourselves that the Pirates had a chance.
I wish.
They fell off a cliff. But
the Brewers are bad.
They're a really fun team. Reds come to the series with a 10-game win streak. Braves come to the series with a 8-9 game win streak.
Yeah. 8 game, I believe.
6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8
I
game win
think
streak.
the Reds actually came in with an 11 game win streak.
They did because
Yeah.
it stopped at 12. Yeah, Braves do what they do, score in the first inning. Travis d'Arnaud hits that 3-run bomb. That was actually, I mean, what's his face? Luke Weaver of the Reds, strike away from getting out of the inning, and that one swing completely changes the dynamic of the game. I felt really bad watching it because it was the first sellout crowd at Great American Ballpark probably since they opened, and here they are, basically just getting a reality check from the Braves. We go up 5-0. AJ Smith-Shawver, I wasn't too worried. Again, I think this is sort of the regression monster rearing its head. We knew at some point, especially to Great American Ballpark is an extremely difficult place to pitch. If you don't know, I think right field goes out to, I think it's just like Little League dimensions. Like, honestly, I'm very surprised that the commissioner has not asked them to move the fences back at least a little bit.
I think 2 of those home runs that he gave up, and this is not making excuses. I'm totally fine the Braves lost that game. But 2 of those homers had XBAs under 3. They weren't barrels. The ball was flying out, and I feel like it was weird because Riley had a shot to center that stayed in the ballpark. I think Rosario also had a pretty decently hit ball that I don't remember the outcome, but it also didn't go over the fence. And I think the Reds knew, they're thinking about this. The players are always thinking, I'm going to hit this ball at a 37-degree angle, and I'm going to hit it at 98 miles an hour, and it's going to go over the fence. And then the Braves players were obviously thinking 25 degrees, 104 miles an hour. Baseball players definitely do this, but
yeah,
it was just the Reds were hitting it higher and it was flying farther, and that's just what you get at Great American Small Park. But again, I'm not upset because Joey Votto and Elly De La Cruz really just kind of took over that game.
The Braves did storm back. They were down. It was 11-7.
7.
And then Acuna hits a bomb.
The first cheap homer of the year, I think, for Acuna.
Yeah.
It only went 368 feet. I was expecting... I was actually watching The Devil Wears Prada at this point in the game. But I was flicking back and forth on the phone. I saw Acuna hit a homer, and I was like, is this going to be another 450-foot blast? And it was 368 feet.
That Travis d'Arnaud home run really spooked him.
Yeah.
He's pressing. He's trying to
hit it 500.
Yeah.
Even though he holds the record for the longest home run in Atlanta, at Truist Park at least. But yeah, Acuna hits a homer. Olsen hits a homer. Riley hits a homer. I got those last 2 backwards because I'm not used to the lineup construction,
which we'll talk about.
Yeah. They are not able to come all the way back. They lose. I'm fine with the loss. Again, it was a good game.
Yeah. And again, I mean, look, we were coming off an 8-game winning streak. I mean, we beat the Phillies twice. I think we honestly sent the Rockies to the minor leagues. We took 2 out of 3 in Detroit. It's really rare. I mean, it's something as a baseball fan you have to come to grips with because there's 162 games in the year. The classic turn of phrase is you're going to win 50 games, you're going to lose 50 games. It matters what you do with the other 62. So, as a baseball fan, even teams like, the 2001 Mariners still lost at least, for 45 games. And it's at a point right now with this team where unless we're losing 3 in a row, like an individual loss really isn't going to bother me, especially if it's a game that ended and
it was a fun game,
played out the way that it played out. Yeah.
And not to spoil things if Braves fans are watching this and don't know the outcome, but I wouldn't have been upset if the Braves lost the series either.
I've kind of, especially with the thread with the Orioles and Diamondbacks, I kind of do like the Braves being sort of the older brother saying, hey, like, y'all are good. I mean, y'all played a good series. but you can't beat me. It's like when you face your younger brother in basketball, and like he's getting a little bit better, but he's still a younger brother. You still gotta prove.
As the younger brother who would never outgrew my older brother in height or weight, I can't relate to this at all.
That's the older brother who, actually, my younger brother, I would say, is a lot stronger than I am now. But growing up, it was very close. But I did have the height on him. I'm definitely speaking from personal experience here. The only time I felt good at sports, actually.
Yeah, I wish I had that going for me. But yeah, so game 1 doesn't go the Braves' way. We're not upset with that. Game 2, man, I don't even know how to go through this because it was pretty much the same back and forth nature as game 1. The Braves win. Iglesias, and I think we'll spend like a minute on this later, did not do well, but he did close it out, and the Braves won 7-6. Did they just win back-to-back games 7-6? I think this is me just realizing it.
Yeah. They won every game against the Reds was determined by 1 run.
That is incredible. I actually love that.
That is baseball. That is beauty.
Is there anything that stands out for game 2 for you? Because it was just kind of.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch game 2 at all. I just saw the box score. Jared Schuster kind of pitched the way that we expected Jared Schuster to pitch. This isn't a topic that we're going to dive too deep into, but I just think it's worth mentioning. Michael Soroka, since being sent down, I think was it 2 appearances, 3 appearances? I know his last 2, it was 14 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. He's looking like a man who's had a fire lit under him.
I do not think Dylan Dodd I don't think Dylan Dodd should make another start this year. But I also think Jared Schuster should be on the edge of a demotion. Yeah. Personally.
So again, we're going to be keeping an eye on Michael Soroka's progress this year. Last couple episodes we talked about his promotion and subsequent demotion. But he could be coming back soon, is what I'm hearing from my sources, which is just my intuition.
Trust me, bro.
Just trust me, bro. That's my source.
So today's game, and we'll close this out so we can have time to talk about some cooler things. Braves jump out to a lead. Charlie Morton pitches like a number 4 starter and gives it back. Then the Braves have a nice 3-run homer from 2023 ? All-Star Matt Olson, who had both him and Austin Riley had really good series, and I don't think we'll highlight it enough. But Olson is now tied for the most home runs in Major League Baseball at 25.
I gotta prepare for these episodes better. Was this the first opposite field home run he had on Friday? Was that the first? Totally past, not left center, but to left field straight away.
I don't know, but it was kind of a weird home run for me to watch.
Both of those were really weird. The one today was at his eye level, and he sort of just fought it off. If you looked at his reaction, I don't think he thought he got it. He kind of he got delayed a bit getting out of the box.
Matt has the same
kind of hooked
ish reaction for that's just going to be a fly out to the outfield, and I just crushed the daylights out of that ball, and it's really confusing as a fan watching on TV to know whether he's just tanked the ball or if he's just casually flown out to the right fielder. I feel like these home runs to the opposite field were his I guess I've just flown out and then the ball just carried out. He had 4 home runs this series. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, do you think Matt Olson is an all-star? I'd say, there's a guy in LA who's hitting pretty well, and then there's Pete Alonso who hits tanks, and he's probably one of the only good things about the Mets season to date. Now, Pete Alonso missed 12 days, 13 days. He came back up ridiculously fast, but that's still 10 games. that he missed. And Olsen is hitting pretty well if you don't look at batting average, and we don't usually, unless it's Luis Arias, who we're both big fans of. Now I think I'm on the Olsen All-Star train. We'll get to that later. But overall, the Braves win a series in Cincinnati. It was a really fun series. Also really stressful because the Braves starters, none of them went more than 5 innings. The Braves bullpen is exhausted.
This, I think it's more honestly a testament to the offenses, but this would have been the first series since 1901 where neither team starters could get an out in the 5th inning if Charlie Morton didn't pitch.
Charlie really
today.
Messed that up, didn't he?
I
Charlie was probably sitting in the dugout. Brian Snitker was going, "Hey, Charlie, you're not doing well. We're going to take you out." And Charlie was like, "I'm not making history today. I'm not making history."
It was funny, too. He almost got run over by the Reds, whatever their version of the Tool race is.
Yeah.
So I think they were trying to sabotage him. He ended up dodging it and got through the 5th inning on 10 pitches, struck out Votto, another guy, and got a Jake Fraley out on a flyout. He was... it was kind of interesting because, typically Charlie, he's pretty, I would say, collected on the mound, but his body language was a lot different there. He looked like somebody who had a mission. I kind of hope we see that version of Charlie. He's still been doing well. I think he's pretty
very satisfied with Charlie. I know some fans will say, "Oh, he's making $20 million a year. He should pitch like an ace." The Braves have 2 aces when Fried is healthy. Fried will be coming back this season. I truly believe the Braves are taking their time with Fried, so he is fully healthy.
Yeah.
And really at that point, you just need, well, especially with the way Elder's pitching, I guess I have to believe that it's sustainable now. But Charlie, you really just need him to eat innings and not allow too many runs, and he does that. He's a good guy. And you're also kind of paying for the experience, like his MLB experience. There are not many pitchers who have a career where it's years of struggle before reaching success, and he's a smart dude. So that's kind of invaluable.
Him talking to, I believe it was Elder in the dugout during his start, and he's really filled that mentorship role. Him and Cranny both. I mean, obviously, players aren't really going to talk crap about their coaches to the public, but it seems like Cranny definitely gets a lot more good ink than most pitching coaches. So it's just like it's an environment that cultivates the type of success that we're seeing. And, even the thing I love about Charlie Morton, he didn't do it today, but even if he doesn't have his A stuff, he still can give you 7 innings. It might be 7 innings of 5 earned runs, but he's going to fight through it. So, and that's kind of what he's just been doing his entire career.
He's what the Braves need. I don't need him to be a Cy Young candidate, but as long as he's not Patrick Corbining it out there,
he's still going to give you. He's
still
going
a
to give you a
serviceable
chance.
Starter.
Yeah, he's still going to give you a chance every time. He'll have the occasional rough start, but never the true blow up start. His worst is that 6 innings, 6 earned run start. He's always going to find a way to get himself out of any situation.
And he's dealt with long struggles in his career. Like he'll get out of it, or he'll make the adjustments. So let's do some breakdowns. Do you want to start with Eddie Rosario and Michael Harris?
Yeah, let's do it.
So there are 2 Braves players.
Let's also include Ozzie Albies in there too, because actually there is a fun fact that I found that I want to share with you,
and that will lead
audience.
well into the lineup changes. But there are 3 players right now on the Braves who got really hot out of nowhere. In my opinion, I think Harris we kind of expected eventually. Eddie Rosario looks better than he did in the NLCS.
I don't know if I would agree with that.
I would say that over this month, 25 days, I know Eddie Rosario basically hit 800 against the Dodgers, but he did have a few hits in there, the lucky base hit. Eddie Rosario has a 221 WRC plus for the month. He has gone from an, I believe, 80 WRC plus hitter before the month began to a 120 WRC plus hitter now. Ozuna had probably one of the hottest months of May that you can have. He's continued his success into June. Ozuna had a god-awful April, but he's hit an above average since then. Eddie Rosario has had a better hitting season than Marcell Ozuna by WRC plus standards.
Yep.
He is walking more than ever. On June 14th, he had 7 walks. 11 days later, he has 18 walks. He has walked every calendar day, and I don't understand where that's coming from.
What's funny about Rosario is a lot of times I sort of compare him to Jekyll and Hyde, because sometimes he puts up really good at bats. He is great at fighting anything off. I mean, very similar, I would say, to even like a Vlad Guerrero, where it doesn't matter if it's at eye level, doesn't matter. Like, the only thing that can really get him consistently out is a curveball inside. But there's other times he'll go up there and just swing at everything. And like I said, he's good at fouling pitches off, but he can only swing at everything for so long. And what I've noticed during his hot streak is that he's cut down on those at-bats. He still does them occasionally. And
he had one today with the bases loaded.
And it's really interesting because most players, I would say 95% of players in the league go up to every plate appearance, depending on the pitcher, with a consistent mindset. They're going to try to accomplish kind of the same thing most of the time. Eddie Rosario literally will just be two different players, at bat to at bat. So I still always think he's always had the raw skills to be an above average player. He proved that in Minnesota, and it seems like he's finally just the biggest issue with him was just cutting down on those waste at bats. That may be a cruel way of putting it, especially considering that homer he hit in the 2021 NLCS was one of those quote unquote waste at bats that he happened to get a really hittable pitch on because Walker Buehler was basically gassed at that point.
That was a series. But yeah, Eddie Rosario, I know we have the 2021 playoffs, basically just the NLCS, but I've never seen him walk. He looks more locked in on the at-bats. He's not chasing most of the time, which I think pitchers were going to just throw outside the zone, kind of like they do for Javi Baez, and now he stopped swinging. Ozzie Albies has also seen a tick in his walk rate, and he has suddenly turned into a god from the left side too. I wrote a month ago that I think he should be a situational switch hitter, which means he should hit right-handed most of the time unless there's a pitcher where you should just hit left-handed. But I don't have the numbers in front of me because I was planning on only talking about Harris and it was Rosario, but Cole has a good point. I think he'd had, if I am remembering from a few days ago, I think he had a 120 WRC plus from the left side of the plate.
I will say this. We can get more into Albies when we talk about the lineup change because I do have some numbers from that.
But yeah, then Harris, I thought Rosario was going to be a lock for player of the week after his destruction in Detroit. And then on Tuesday, it turns out Michael Harris won player of the week. And it's not because Harris didn't deserve it. Harris was very, very good. He went from having a 40 WRC plus to having a 90 WRC plus. I mean, and this late in the season is almost impossible. He did that in 10 days, 9 days?
Oh, yeah, basically a week.
Absolutely absurd.
I have a genuine question. Do you remember the last time you saw, personally, I mean, he probably has hit one, the last time you saw Michael Harris hit a ball under 90 miles per hour? I can't remember the last time I saw it. Everything he's hitting is just smoked.
Yeah, it took a while. He got unlucky on some balls in play at the beginning of the month where we're like, oh, I think he's getting out of this. But recently, he's looked like his 2022 self.
I'd say do think it's even better.
Funny. In the early half of the season, his walk rate was a little higher than it was prior to compared to last season. But during this hot streak, his walk rate's back to under 4. I think he's kind of like Austin, where you want him to be more patient, but when they start getting more patient, they're missing the pitches that they normally smoke.
I think one of my favorite parts about the sport is that there's all these different hitters with different profiles and different approaches. I like Harris. Eddie, not as much, just because I think he's been in the league long enough where people, once they see they swinging at everything, they can find those holes like that, curveball in. Michael Harris, I don't think he has that hole yet. I don't think anybody's really discovered, his true weak spot. And he's just said in the league ablaze. So,
lineup construction. I think we have enough time.
Construction.
So, okay. Which game was it? Was it the Rockies series? First game of the Rockies series.
Yeah. So June 15th, first game of the Rockies series. Brian Snitker, I'm just gonna read from the thing. Put Ozzie Albies in the 2-hole and dropped Matt Olson to 5. Even though the lineup scored 17 runs during the Tiger series, so this wasn't done out of, there was no injuries. The Sean Murphy injury happened a couple days later. It wasn't like the lineup was struggling. Whatever internal conversation they had to make this change, maybe they. I honestly think it was just, hey, look, we're playing the Rockies this series. Let's just see what it looks like. Let's just put Ozzie in the 2-hole. I think it artificially lengthens the lineup. Since then, Albies has hit 361 with an on-base 395, a slugging of 667, whereas Olson has hit 303, on-base 361, and a slugging of 939, as the Braves went from scoring 5.2 runs per game to 8.25 runs per game. Obviously, it's a small sample size. One of those games one of the recent games, obviously we scored 5 runs in the 10th inning, which doesn't really account for that. But even, let's just say the results weren't even that drastic. Because again, we're talking small sample sizes here. They could get shut out by Pablo Lopez, and basically the numbers would be the same. I already kind of know what your thoughts are on it, but what are your thoughts on the lineup change?
So, I personally didn't like it. I think the lineup does need to be reshuffled. I think it's kind of a weird lineup right now, or before the lineup shuffle. But I generally like Ozzie Albies lower in the lineup. I think he's a leader of the team. He is kind of a face of the franchise type player. But also, I think he should be hitting 7th, 8th, or 9th. Because of, his left-handed career track record, where he is a below-average hitter. And then I totally agree whenever Snitker moves him up to 4th when they face a left-handed pitcher, because he is basically Mike Trout against lefties. I was not a fan of moving Ozzie to the 2-hole because it felt like a very old-school approach. You have... Mm-hmm. And this is going to minimize what Ronnie does. We never talk about Ronnie because he's just so good. There's nothing to talk about.
I think it was you who said it last time, where look, he's basically in cruise control right now, going 95 miles per hour down the highway.
Yeah, he just goes and there's nothing to worry about. Yeah,
it's basically the cops are just just let him have it. Yeah,
and we're the cops.
We can't stop him. Yeah.
So Ronald is your semi-prototypical leadoff hitter where he gets on base a lot and he steals a bunch of bases. That is minimizing his power, but whatever. with a guy like Olsen or Sean Murphy or even Austin Riley, I really like it because they're one of your best hitters on your team. And then that's what the book says for the 2-hole. You want your highest on base guy, and then you want your best hitter. I don't think Matt Olson is the team's best hitter, but he was close to it, and so I liked him there. Ozzie Albies is more of your old school approach where you get the slap hitter, get him over to second, get him over to third type hitter, usually. But what do I know? Because it's really worked out and they've scored a ton of runs.
Yeah. Now, again, to be fair, 4 of those games were against the Colorado Rockies, who, like we established before, basically a graveyard of dead careers. But it worked. First game against the Phillies, it worked. I mean, I want to see more proof. I like it because one thing I noticed with Matt Olson, and he's a guy who's going to take his walks. He has a very good eye at the plate. He seems like somebody who'd rather come up with 2 men on, 3 men on. And as good as Ronald Acuna Jr. is, there's only one of him. You can't multiply Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, it doesn't matter how many bases he steals. It's just going to be one guy on there in the first inning. And I didn't run the numbers, but just anecdotally, it seems like Matt Olson is coming up with more runners on base since hitting in the 5-hole. And his walk rate, interestingly enough, has gone from, I just had it up here. Dead time.
As Cole looks this up, breaking news, Charlie Culberson is no longer with the Atlanta Braves organization. He opted out after being outright to Gwinnett.
Enjoy retirement, Charlie.
I would not be shocked if the Braves turn around and sign him to a major league contract tomorrow when they send down Chadwick Tromp, because the Braves do not have a middle infielder. And I don't want to see Austin Riley play shortstop.
Yeah, we're not even going to touch that either, but it does seem like, especially during the stretch, a couple players have been fatigued.
So what's the stat?
So Olson's walk rate went from 14.9% hitting in the 2-hole down to 8.3%. So he's swinging the bat more. And, this could be a culmination of factors. Pitchers are throwing in more pitches. The Braves lineup is so silly and deep that I don't really know why Matt Olson would see less pitches to hit in the 2-hole than in the 5-hole. I mean, I think it's because he's just on average seeing more runners on base, and pitchers finally are getting the idea, like, hey, we just got to pitch to one of these guys, and Matt Olson has been the guy. Again, he went on a homer barrage this weekend. 2 of those homers were those
really weird,
very strange opposite field hits that I don't even think Matt Olson, as we said, we don't even think he knew that he fully got them. I want to see more of it, but okay, as just like a stupid baseball fan, I really love Acuna and Albies hitting back to back. I just make them as close as you can. I mean, I think even from a marketing perspective, it's just great. They're 2 best friends. They hit back to back in the order. They both play on the right side of the diamond. I think we're at a point right now where, Acuna is such a dynamic player. It doesn't really matter who you put behind him. Every time he steps up to the plate, he's already on second.
Yeah, I will say that Ozzie will. Well, I don't know, because Ozzie has so many homers. He has like 18.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, but once we come back, I'm going to give you my fun fact and how Ozzie Albies plays into possibly making this fact even more fun.
And we'll go through our all-star predictions, and I think I have 7 or 8, depending on how hot takey I want to be. So we'll take a break. While you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channels, What Happened to Baseball and No More Fielders. We are tied in subs.
Tied. That is.
I had a big lead
tit
and
for
I
tat.
choked it away like the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not an Atlanta sports fan, so I'm going to make this joke. Choked it away like the Atlanta Falcons in a Super Bowl a few years ago. And now Cole might be ahead of me in like 10 minutes. So we'll go to take a break, subscribe to both of our channels and this one if you're new.
We'll keep you all updated. When we left off last time, we talked about the Braves lineup change, specifically how it has affected Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson. Mitch, I don't know if you've... Mitchell, sorry. As a one-syllable named person myself, I tend to just group everybody into a one-syllable name. I don't know if you've noticed, Ozzie Albies has hit a lot of homers this year. He's on pace for 38. So it got me thinking, because Ozzie Albies is he's a short king. He's 5'8" on a good day. So it got me thinking about other short kings throughout Major League history. Can you tell me, since integration, the most homers hit by somebody 5'8" or shorter since integration, and how many?
I have no idea who it would be. If you had limited it to second baseman, I would have guessed Jose Altuve because he plays in that bandbox of a stadium.
He would be correct for both answers.
He would
Jose
be.
Altuve, with 31 homers, 2021 in another year, is the most hit by someone 5'8" or shorter. Hack Wilson was also a short king. He played before integration. He has the all-time record with 56. Doesn't matter. Wind was blown out that year in Chicago. But since
Jose
integration,
Altuve only maxed out at 31 homers?
31, yeah. And nobody 5'8" or shorter has hit more than 31 homers since integration. I don't think Ozzie Albies is hitting 38, but I do think he can top 31.
Here's my thing with Ozzie and home runs. Last year, he got off to like a weird homer streak before the Braves got Acuna back. And we were like, oh, maybe he's just like acting like Acuna. He had like 6 home runs by
Yeah, he had that series
mid-April.
in San Diego.
And then he kind of tapered off. This year, he kind of did the same thing. And I was like, okay, he's going to taper off. And then, Ronald Acuna Jr., who is front-runner MVP candidate with Corbin Carroll, will pass him. And, we'll think it's funny that, in May, Ozzie Albies had more homers than Ronald Acuna Jr. We're near July. Acuna has 16 homers. Ozzie has 18. I don't know. It's weird because I feel like Acuna Jr. should be hitting more homers based on how hard he's hitting the ball. But Ozzie just knows how to
lift
them
the
out.
ball. Yeah.
He's not smoking them, but he knows how to lift the ball.
They're lollipop
just right.
homers. Yeah. They're that, what you were saying earlier. I mean, he should be on the Reds, honestly. The 37 degree.
The 37 degree, 98 mile an hour. He knows, except for that one homer he hit off of Tommy Hunter, which I think might have been his hardest hit homer of his career. Usually his homers are in the 98 to 104, 105.
Yeah, they kind of look like a Steph Curry 3.
Yeah, they're just slowly.
Just barely, he's barely outside of the line, and it's just kind of like a lollipop.
Rarely ever do I go,
placed.
wow, Ozzie just cranked that ball out.
Yeah.
I go, oh, wow, that was a home run. But he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, off the bat, most of his homers, I'm like, yeah, that's going out. But it's not like...
It's not like Travis d'Arnaud power or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, especially with his ability to hit right-handed and the fact that the Braves have a short porch in left field situation, I would not be shocked if he hits 35. 38 to 40, I would be a little surprised. But yeah, to this point in the season, especially with him hitting left-handed better recently, it's the Sox. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but his hot streak has come with his pants down, his socks down at least. His socks aren't showing. He's not playing pantless.
I remember actually thinking, oh man, Ozzie's down bad because I mean personally, just aesthetically, I like the socks up more. But
yeah,
I mean, if he's hitting better,
if he's hitting bombs, he's hitting bombs. I don't have that much more to say about Ozzie. That fact is shocking that it's Altuve at 31.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be one not as recent. Like I was like, there had to be like a guy in the 60s
Because
or 70s.
Mookie's like 5'9", right?
Yeah,
So he
he barely
just
eclipses the threshold.
clips that.
But also Mookie, I mean, he hit a career high 35 last year. It's not like he was like a prominent home run
Mookie's
hitter.
just a weird player in general. He's probably the only professional bowler that you could play at shortstop after never playing there in his major league career, and he
just does
fine.
Defies explanation.
He's a guy who plays above his height and weight, and it doesn't make sense. And I've just given up trying to figure it out. But yeah, so two quick things about the bullpen before we go and embarrass ourselves with our all-star predictions. AJ Minter has been really good. You put that in there, and I think you have way more to talk about with AJ than I did.
Yeah, I mean, what I was just going to say about AJ was he was coming to the year. He knew that he was going to come into the year as a closer, but it wasn't going to be permanent. Once Iglesias was back to full health, he would be more of in a setup role. Really floundered with the closer position. Just giving up, just kind of giving up at-bats, blowing a lot of games. He blew a game against the Reds, actually, back in April. But in June, he has a 0.90 ERA. However, he is performing his... Yeah, it's not counting today's game. Mm-hmm. That being said, he is overperforming his FIP, which is still 2.27. So I just want to give a quick shout out AJ Minter. I know with relievers, it is hard. It is difficult to shake off a bad start because you're getting the most inconsistent playing time out of everybody on the team. You know, starters, you're going to pitch every fifth day. Regulars in the lineup, you're going to play every day. Bullpen,
Charlie Culberson, you're not ever going to.
You're not going to play every day. Bullpen, though, like, hey, it really just depends on when your team needs you and what situations you normally come in on.
Yeah, Minter thing, too, was weird because everything about his repertoire was saying he's basically identical to last year. But if you watched him, he was getting smoked.
Yeah.
Like, I think about that blown save against the Marlins. I don't even think it was a save opportunity. I guess it's a blown save anyway.
He created a save opportunity and then blew it.
But the Marlins were smoking that ball across the field in that game that he blew. And now he looks, kind of like he did 2022. I wasn't ever really super worried about Minter because his velo wasn't down. His spin rate wasn't really down. He just was getting hit hard for some reason.
Yeah.
One reliever that I am concerned about is Raisel Iglesias. He's had a bad month of June. He has an ERA of 5.73. He has a FIP of 4.8. And then he has an XFIP of 1.65. And if you don't know how XFIP is calculated, it takes expected home run to fly ball ratio instead of just home run rate. That basically means that if Iglesias is giving up a fly ball, it's been a home run. And it certainly looks like that. His strikeout rate is fine. Well, I mean, fine. It's at 13 per 9. That's great. His walk rate is great. He's not, aside from that one weird blip in Oakland where he had no control over the ball, his walk rate has been fine. It's just the ball that leaving the yard is the issue. And when you're a closer, one fly ball turning into a home run could either mean a tie game or a lead or, bringing it within one. Both yesterday and today were nail biters. He was able to get through both of them. This is more of just like a, hey, keep your eye out. It's a little concerning, but I think he'll be fine. What do you think?
I'm looking at a Savant page. He is a weird pitcher. How many guys do you know who can throw 98 miles per hour, but their changeup is their main pitch? Besides that, Yeah, I mean, forearm strain to start the year, that affects your ability to, build yourself up. It's already, I mean, relievers are already so sporadic and so, I mean, just, I think the most pronounced hot and cold streaks. His peripherals, I mean, he's still able to top 98. His changeup location has been a little not good. I mean, he's still dialing it in the bottom right corner, but he is missing outside to righties a lot. Maybe a little bit more. Sorry, missing inside to righties a lot, and that's not really a zone you want to be playing with, especially with some of the hitters that he's been facing off against. So I think he's fine. I just think right now he just really needs. I think the raw power is there. He just needs to locate better.
Yeah, and I think in the past, location hasn't been an issue for him. I think that's why it stands out.
Yeah, and I think for a pitcher of his caliber, even like the Spencer Striders of the world too, you'd rather not have the location than not have the power.
Yeah,
I think power should come first, and then pinpoint accuracy should come later.
There's a reason Spencer Strider can weave himself out of issues even without the best control. But for guys like Jesse Chavez, if his pinpoint accuracy is out the window, which apparently it is when he's not in a Braves uniform, he's getting lit up. Yeah. There's just some weird things with the bullpen in general. Like, Braves fans think it's catastrophically bad. It's actually fine. We are missing a few people. I can't wait for Dylan Lee to get back. I can't wait for Jesse Chavez to get back. Speaking of Jesse Chavez, I think he's an all-star. Even with this time missed, he got hit by a line drive by another member of the Senior Citizens Major League Baseball Club, Miguel Cabrera. And, with those older senior citizens in Major League Baseball, him, Rich Hill, Charlie Morton, when a ball hits you, you need a little more time to recover. And the Braves placed him on the IL. He's had a ridiculously good season. I don't know what it might. I wrote an article on his All-Star legitimacy candidacy, and he's got like career highs in like strikeout rate. He's not walking batters. If he hadn't turned into a starter in the mid 2010s, this would easily be his best season yet. I did comparisons to like other relievers. I think Jesse Chavez, if he can come back, get a few more innings in before the All-Star selections happen, I think he should be an All-Star, along with 7 other Braves members. Is this excessive, Cole?
I mean, they're the best team in the National League.
Yeah. So here are my All-Stars.
They first team to 50 wins, and it might be a week until another National League team gets there. So
I feel like this is
sort of lapping the pack at this point.
To say that the Braves should have 8 All-Stars, but I filled in a list. The Braves already have an automatic All-Star. Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to be an All-Star starter in 2023. He had more votes than Shohei Ohtani. I don't quite understand this. I love Ronald Acuna Jr. I would vote for Ronald Acuna Jr. if I wasn't a Braves fan. Who is voting for Acuna who is not voting for Ohtani? They're not.
I have a theory, and it's because they're just voting Ohtani the DH, and they already know he's going to get in as a pitcher. So I just don't think there's that many people, though, like with that line of thinking. That would be like my line of thinking.
It was like 300,000 votes. Who is
That's
not?
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That I understand as somebody who is like, yeah, like he's going to get in as a pitcher anyway and hit. Like, let's get another DH in there, even though
who else?
Jordan's hurt. Who else is besides Jordan?
I don't understand how anyone could vote for
a bunch of Astros fans who saw firsthand in the 2021 World Series how good Acuna was. He was the reason we won that year.
Yeah, I know. So Ronald is an automatic All-Star. The Braves will have at least one All-Star in Seattle in July. Here are my other All-Stars, Cole, and if you disagree with me, we'll fight whenever I come to Atlanta, and I'll lose that fight. But Sean Murphy, is going
Easy.
to be the all-star
Easy.
catcher.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't even remember who's second in the voting. I don't think there's competition. Orlando Arcia will be the starting shortstop in the National League. It's him and Lindor. Casual fans will only look at batting average when they're doing the voting. They're not going to consider the fact that Arcia has fewer at-bats or that he's not as good defensively as Lindor. Still very good defensively. But the stats that MLB gives voters is not enough. And in a showdown between Arcia and Lindor, casual fans are not going to vote for Lindor, I don't think, even though he is the star player. Lindor's offensive stats just are not as impressive as Arcia's. Bryce Elder, I am reluctantly finally coming around to the idea that a man with a sub-3 ERA on the best team in the National League at least will be an all-star. As much as I disagreed with it, it's a fight in my mind between the regression train will come versus if you just look at like ERA.
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, obviously pitchers are being chosen by coaches and players.
It's just
coaches, players
no,
of the
coach element has been thrown out. Got thrown out a few years ago. It's now the commissioner's office and players. And I just can't imagine him not getting a nod based on his ERAs, the old traditional stats.
To me, accolades. Obviously they'll weigh differently, but All-Star, MVP, they should just be based on raw stats. It doesn't matter that he was getting lucky. The numbers are what they are. They speak for themselves.
And now, so last year he had a silly low ERA in 10 starts, but it was basically because he faced the Marlins and the Nationals 7 times. This year he's facing everybody, and he's still really good. Like I think he's had one start where you're like, that could have been a lot better.
He had the start against the Nationals, but it was a getaway day. I mean, it was Braves day games.
Yeah.
I mean, ball was
whatever.
traveling. Yeah.
Ozzie Albies, I think, will be the backup second baseman in the All-Star game. Luis Arias will be the starter. He should be the starter. Thairo Estrada has had a very good season in San Francisco, but it's San Francisco, and people don't know how to read that. So
man, I am so mad that nobody voted for my anti-Giant super team video because I was actually really excited to make that. It's fine, the world will never see the Giants anti-super team masterpiece.
Estrada probably deserves it more than Albies just based on stats, but I think Albies is going to home runs, average, OPS, things look good. If you don't look at his defense, and I don't think the commissioner's office or the players are going to look at Ozzie Albies -4 outs above average and say, he doesn't have a 3F WAR. He shouldn't be in the All-Star. Just looking at raw stats, Ozzie is an All-Star. These are my two predictions where I'm like, these are iffy. Spencer Strider has had 2 really rough games, and now his ERA is closer to 4 than it is to 3. I still think he's an all-star just based off of his strikeout number and the fact that starting pitchers who are going to be voting on this are very sympathetic to 1 bad game or 2 bad games.
Yeah.
The rest of Strider's portfolio, aside from those 2 games, is still really good. And the strikeout numbers are insane. And then Matt Olson, I think, will get a nod over Pete Alonso. He might even win the starting first baseman position because it's him versus get out the swear jar, but Freddie Freeman. And the Braves fans have a complicated relationship with Freddie Freeman. And there is a world in which I can see Braves fans outvoting baseball fans and putting Matt Olson as the starter. Those are my 8. Oh, and I think Jesse Chavez should be an all-star. So those are my 8 all-stars. I think it's excessive. What do you think?
So I'll be honest here. I'm not great at paying attention to all-star voting. I used, when I was a young fan, I was always on it. But, I saw the finalists, And I was like, I agree with those. I'll probably do a couple votes myself. So I'm just going to break down your picks. Obviously, Acuna's already in, leading vote getter. Sean Murphy, easy. Will Smith is making a case, but I think it's 1A or 1B, and I'm a biased fan.
So
I think it should be Murphy. Also, even with his hamstring injury, Sean Murphy's played more games than Will Smith. Will Smith missed some time with a concussion when Marcell Ozuna bonked him on the back of the head. Might be a bit anachronistic, but that's totally what happened.
That's the story we're sticking to.
We're in the movie Tenet, where like time moves both forward and backwards.
And forward, yeah.
Yeah. Orlando Arcia. I mean, I love Arcia, don't get me wrong, but I do think it's more of a lack of any other standout. And again, I still think he's deserving. More as a reserve than a starter. Lindor, my thoughts on the All-Star game have changed throughout the years. I used to be one of those guys who like loathed the idea of Derek Jeter being a starter in 2014 with his eventual like -2 B WAR. Now my thoughts have changed, and I do know that All-Star voting this again, I just want to be clear here. I do know that All-Star voting impacts arbitration. I know it impacts future accolades. I mean, it's literally on your Hall of Fame plaque how many All-Star appearances you've had. But I do think there is some pageantry to it. I do think that the faces of the game, even if they're not having the best of years, should still get some extra consideration. So, man, I'm going to get so much flack for this. I think, even as a Braves fan, you ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready for this hot take.
I think I'd rather see Lindor as the starting shortstop, just because he's one of the faces. I mean, he's one of the guys that the game is marketing around. Got that sick deal with Corona. I still think Arcia is a reserve. No doubt about it. He still should be in Seattle. But just as a starter, I think Lindor, just because of all the goodwill he's built up throughout the years, even if he's not having the best season.
The shortstop is a weird position where it's like there were 5-star all-star shortstops in free agency this past year, and all but one of them went to the National League. And then you have this man who signed a 3-year, $7 million extension who will be an all-star. It's just kind of weird.
I mean, honestly, I think really, if I had to choose, if I could just wave a magic wand, Elly De La Cruz would be the starting shortstop in Seattle. I mean, like if we're talking,
that was the one thing I was upset about him getting called up this late. Is like, if he had got called up a month later, or a month earlier, he would have been an all-star. Like no doubt.
Yeah, and actually, I think he's gonna lose his rookie eligibility this year too.
He will. Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. You know, like Corbin Carroll, he's having a fantastic season. He is deserving. It's not like a Jeremy Hermida situation where it's like, whatever, or Chris Coughlin, sorry, where like you were the least terrible rookie this year.
Angel Baroa, which I think you might be an expert on. I don't know.
Yeah, those Royal shortstops are so fun to talk about. Mr. Anti-Moneyball. Bryce Elder, I think is an all-star. And then Spencer Strider is pretty much an all-star for the reverse reasons that Bryce Elder, where like we know what Strider can be at his full potential. He just had a couple bad starts where Elder's just been Mr. Consistent despite maybe not having as quite high of a ceiling as Mr. Strider. Ozzie, for going back to faces of the game, I think Albies should be starting over Arise. Just in terms of track record, what he provides. I mean, we kind of put ourselves in this bubble as Braves fans. You know, we said that earlier with Acuna, where you're like, you know, I don't get how he got 300,000 more votes than Ohtani. And it's because we watch baseball as Braves fans, where we center ourselves around this universe and we don't really go outside and see what the national stage looks like. I think Albies, I mean, he's been kind of secretly like one of the faces of the game. I mean, I saw him. He was in those Lincoln or Ford commercials a couple years back. I think he should be double playmates with Lindor in the All-Star game. Olsen, I think 100% should be starting at first base. So with Chavez, I think if he was on the Royals, yeah, he should be. But the fact that the Braves already have so many All-Stars actually is working against the Jesse Chavez All-Star case.
You'd be surprised when it comes to relievers, though. I think that the Braves have likely 7 All-Stars, might. But if a team has 5 All-Stars, I found that relievers, non-closing relievers, actually had no impact. I found 3 non-closing relievers who were the sole representatives of their team. And then I found a bunch of others who had at least 2, like 1 or 2 other or more All-Star mates from their team. I think it topped out at like 6, where you had guys with like 1.9 ERAs, which is Jesse Chavez, I believe, has a 1.5 ERA. And if we're just looking at ERA, I mean, Jesse Chavez has one of the lowest ERAs among relievers. When I did the article, Daniel Bard had a stupidly low ERA, even though he hasn't been good, which makes me feel bad because I like Daniel Bard. He's kind of he has a Tyler Matzik story, and so it's really hard to root against him. So you look at those numbers and you're like, a regression's coming, but then you're like, no, I don't want regression to come. Yeah, I do think when the team has 8 All-Stars and there are only 34 roster spots to fill, that is going to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's an All-Star. I mean, and it would be a good story too. First All-Star.
He's 39 years old. He turns 40 this year. He's 39 in 10 months.
The only team that he's like allowed to be good for.
It's the weirdest. I've never. Keep in mind, I am only 25. But there's no other player that I remember hating as a kid, as a 13-year-old, going, get this guy off my team. And then 13 years later, he comes back. I guess it was 11. 11 years later, he comes back, and now I'm like a huge Jesse Chavez fan. If I had money, I'd buy a few Braves jerseys. One would be a number 99 Strider jersey. One would be a 13 Acuna jersey. And I think I'm splurging on that number 60 Chavez jersey.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So I think it's solid. I mean, besides the middle infield. So wrapping up here, looking ahead. Is this the last before? Yeah. Next time we record will be right before the All-Star game.
The week of the All-Star game. So real quickly, the last podcast, we predicted the Braves would win 8 games. I think Cole said 9. He was feeling adventurous. The Braves won 10 in 1 less game than initially scheduled because of that rainout. I don't know. It just blows my mind.
They heard our predictions and they're like, no,
we're going to make you look stupid.
Get a look at this. Yeah.
So the next 2 weeks, the Braves play 12 games. They go straight home after today and play Minnesota. They go have a day off, and then they play Miami at home, and then they travel to Cleveland and Tampa Bay before the All-Star break. Cleveland is part of the I don't want to win, my division sucks, as is Minnesota. I believe Minnesota is in first, and last time I checked, they had a sub 500 record. These teams are weird because they're not bad, but they're just as mediocre as you can come.
Yeah.
Miami is second in the NL East. They have a negative run differential. And then Tampa Bay is, ridiculously good. I'm actually really excited to watch Yandy.
Yeah. I'm not. But, not against the Braves. I watch enough Rays baseball outside of them playing the Braves that weekend.
Prediction-wise, Um, the conservative me says 7 wins because you're playing you're playing. I mean, this is all against decent to really good teams. But the Braves, I have to get used to being the second best team in baseball. I will go 8-4.
Oh, bold. I'm gonna go 7-5. I think we take 2 from Minnesota. I think we take 2 from. The thing is, what's the meme with the Doge meme where it's like you have strong Doge and they have weak Doge. That's how I feel about the Marlins. Strong Doge is the Marlins every time they play a team not named the Atlanta Braves, and they have the weak Doge where it's the Marlins whenever they play the Braves. Really, I mean, you don't without. I mean, not counting the one game where they just came back after that rain delay. I think that was the only game the Marlins have beat the Braves this year, and I chalked that up as just
that was a weird
fluke.
Game.
Yeah, it just kind of thinking you have it, and then having to sit through a rain delay, and then again, they still lost.
Yeah,
but they've really handled the Marlins this year. It hasn't. I mean, even the games haven't really been that competitive. Besides that one, so I think we easily take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. Same with the Guardians, and I think we lose 2 out of 3 to the Rays, just because the Rays are really really good. And also Tropicana is like, I honestly,
there's a conspiracy going on. I don't know how big it is, but there's a conspiracy because the Tampa Bay Rays at home are invincible. The conspiracy that I've seen on Twitter with, mid-size engagement is that the Rays turn on the fans to help the Rays when they're up, and they turn the fans against the opposing team. That seems like something that would have been caught. But they are invincible at home.
And also too, man, I hate. People are gonna hate me for this. It's not gonna happen. I would like if Acuna, Albies, and Olsen sit out 2 out of 3 of those games.
You're talking about Brian, I never rest my starter Snicker.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen. I would love if that happened.
I
know it robs us of like a competitive series, but like, look, I'm sorry, Acuna, we got to protect him. He's going to be playing the All-Star. He's going to be exhausted after the All-Star break. Like, that is not going to be refreshing for him. He's still tore his ACL 2 years ago.
Oh.
Tropicana feels very notoriously not fond of people, or not great towards people who have torn ACLs in their past.
Maybe Snicker. You know how like Bobby Cox used to start a starter. I guess Snitch has done this too. But they play 1 inning at the end of the season and they all come out.
Yeah. Snicker's done that a couple times.
Yeah,
so he did that
I wouldn't mind if
Markakis
Snicker does that. The Braves have decent options for both outfield.
Yeah.
And
I give Hilliard some playing time. Give Pilar
Travi D some time at first base.
Yeah, we might need him. Yeah, I just we're gonna have to see what the Rays pitching. I mean, dude, who do they? McClanahan's out now. I mean, maybe.
But then they like revitalized. What's his name? Jake Diekman or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Jake Diekman. So. We're gonna see like the mecha version of Zach Eflin. Like he comes out with a red eye and like robot arms. I would love to. I know it robs us of a competitive series against the other best team in Major League Baseball. I don't care.
The Tampa Bay Rays should do the same thing. They should just Yandy. Bench him.
Yeah.
Wander just got benched. Bench him again.
Yeah.
They have so many players with WRC pluses over 120.
Let's really test these teams' depth.
Yeah.
I'd rather if we're gonna lose 2 out of 3 anyway, I'd rather Acuna get off his knees for a second.
The one thing I have an issue with Snickers sometimes is that he does ride the starters too hard. Like
Yeah.
I really would have, as bad as Charlie Culberson is at Major League Baseball, he is a good baseball player, in the like compared to the rest of the world. But as a Major League Baseball player, he's not very good. I really would have loved to see him replace one of the three infielders in one of the 4 blowouts against Colorado. I guess 3 because he didn't make the team that last game. Yeah. So each time we've done these predictions, I think we've gone low on the wins, or we've been right on. Let's keep that going, Braves country.
Yeah.
You make us look really smart. And if you appreciate our views and our opinions, you should share this podcast with every single Braves fan that you know, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Any parting words, Cole?
Let's the Marlins, they've been playing good baseball recently.
Yuri Perez has like a .9 ERA.
Let's remind them who has won 6 straight, or 5 straight, whatever the number is, 6 NL East titles. Let's just remind them. They need to be put in their place. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Go Braves.
Go Braves. We'll see you.
First time playing the Twins. I think the first time the Twins have ever played Truist.
Yeah, we played them in Minnesota in like 2019.
2019, yeah.
Miguel Sano hit this walk-off homer that was like the biggest, most demoralizing walk-off homer I've ever seen as a Braves fan.
What happened to Miguel Sano? He
is off the map, but he hit one like 460 to dead center off. I think Chris Martin.
Framil Reyes are just like those two. Like I thought they would be like the David Ortiz and David Ortiz of the AL Central, and they just both disappeared.
Yeah, fizzled out.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll see you.
Take it easy, everyone.